Oh, so I'm just going to go over things about getting started with a pottery studio. What do you tackle first? Do you tackle the wheel first? Do you tackle the kiln first? Do you tackle the clay first? Well, by far, to have any kind of pottery studio, you tackle the kiln first. Don't try and buy a wheel. Don't try and buy a big slab table. Don't try and buy anything until you first have a kiln. And a kiln can be established with under $500. If you construct your own fiber blanket kiln with a 50-gallon barrel and fiber blanket, just line the barrel with with fiber blanket. You can get the fiber blanket on Amazon, buy a thick blanket, and it's just enough to wrap around the inside of the 50-gallon barrel completely, and you make ceramic buttons to put it in there. And if you need to fire these ceramic buttons somehow, so pit fire the ceramic buttons so that they're not made of clay when you use them to make your kiln. So to make a pit fire, you dig a hole in the ground, put a bunch of sticks with the clay items, and burn a fire, and make these buttons. And these buttons are about 3 inches big, like buttons on a shirt, two holes in them, and they're discs this big. And you buy nichrome wire on Amazon and run nichrome wire through the button and through the barrel with the fiber blanket in between the button and the barrel. And you just poke the wire through the fiber blanket and through the holes and drill in the side of your barrel. Put handles on your barrel and you have a raku kiln. So because when your kiln is at high temperature, you can just lift the kiln up, take it off, and set it to the side, and take your pots out of the kiln and raku, or just wait for it to cool in a normal firing. Just wait for it to cool, and when it's cool, you open it, close it up with the flue hole with a brick or whatever to open it, cooling it slowly. So either way can be done, but first thing you need is a fire. If you do build a fire, you learn about different atmospheres of fire. You learn to fire gas first. Don't say, well, I need a kiln first. I'm going to go ahead and get a nice kiln because I'll need a kiln for a long time. Well, you can get an old rotten kiln that was electric and convert it into a gas kiln yourself. You'll end up with a better firing process than electricity in the first place because gas glazes are cheaper. There's more recipes for gas glazes out there in terms of artistry. There's maybe more recipes. There's more glazes you can buy that are electric, but there's not as many glaze recipes that are electric. People that want to buy electric glazes, they're just firing electric. They don't really care. They don't even make their own glaze. But somebody that fires gas is somebody that takes care enough to make their own glaze because they know the glazes are cheaper for gas, and they make their own glaze, and that's why they fire gas firings. But so getting a kiln and having a gas fire is really important. If you look in this photograph, you see my big giant electric kiln. That's just because I've been doing it so long, and it's just convenient to have a digitally controlled electric kiln. But if you're not looking for convenience and you're looking for results, get a gas kiln. So a gas kiln will do different results uh, than oxidation electric kiln, because the atmosphere is oxidation or reduction. You can do reduction and oxidation with a gas kiln, but you can only do oxidation with an electric kiln. So, and that reduced atmosphere to reduction atmosphere, where there's no oxygen, causes the colors to crystallize at a different color. And when you start cooling once the kiln shuts off, it's a different color. Anyhow, also, so you're looking at $500 to build your own. If you can buy an electric kiln for less than that, so be it. I wouldn't pay over $500 for my new kiln. It was the first kiln I've ever bought. Not darn sure wouldn't get an electric kiln if I just got into pottery and start with gas. Get you a fiber blanket kiln and do salt firing in your backyard with salt atmospheric salt firing. Look it up. Salt fired pottery. Look at the different effects they can have on salt fired pottery. It's beautiful. It's something that they've been doing for a long time. Bricks were salt fired in the old days, and they had salt glaze on outside of all bricks that you would buy when you bought bricks. It was one way of making a strong brick. But other than that, once you have your kiln for $500, a bunch of pottery tools to make clay stuff is next. So uh, that could be $100. All the tools you need, all the trim tools, all a banding wheel, uh, not a wheel, but a banding wheel, which is like a metal disc with a little stand on a stand that it's like a lazy Susan that spins around. Well, a banding wheel, and that's a good thing to have when you start, when you're buying your tools, and some good sponges, a good spray bottle, some cloth, some old rags, uh, some towels that are good, decent towels. They can be holes in them, and some rags. And then next is after that you get your clay. Okay, get your clay and start making things. And you don't need a wheel to be a ceramics artist. Look at this item in the photograph. That could have easily been done without the wheel at all. But if you look at the top part where the neck and the lip of the top of it, that's thrown on the wheel. But the base, the bottom form, that's not thrown on the wheel. That's just hand built on a banding wheel. So there's so much you can do with just like rolling coils by hand on a banding wheel. It's just incredible the amount of things you can do on a banding wheel with just rolled coils that you roll in by hand if you have to. The next step up from buying a kiln and buying $100 worth of tools is I'd go a little further in the tools and get a $400 extruder, $400 to $500 extruder. And I would tell you what, I'd buy that extruder before I spent on the wheel. I'd get that extruder and do things with the extruder, make things with the extruder and make parts and things like that and do stuff with the extruder and make a lot of stuff with the extruder. Um, and you get a good extruder, one that can extrude a 4-inch tube, 4-inch wide tube. So you can make coffee mugs if you will with your extruder and get an extruder. And then after you've done extrusions, tired of doing that, and you've done a lot of that, and you've done a lot of hand building to start with, and you've built all these things by hand, and you're starting to control moisture and things like that, and you learn things, is you get, after the extruder, you get the wheel, you know. And then after you get the wheel, if before you get the wheel, you might want it, if you're not sure you want the wheel yet, because you want to get something cheaper, get yourself a nice slab rolling table for about 600 or 700. Okay. That slab rolling table, you can make 2 foot wide slabs and make those into sculptures, containers, and whatever you want with those slabs. All sorts of sculpture you can do with slabs. And having a nice slab roller, you can make tile very quickly and very efficiently. You can make tile and things like that. And then if you after that slab roller, then maybe get the wheel because the wheel is going to be $1,300. A wheel's more expensive than a slab rolling table. Before you get the slab rolling table, get yourself an 18-inch rolling pin. As those first tools you got at the very beginning, get an 18-inch rolling pin and wooden dowels. You need 2 wooden dowels, one for each side of the rolling pin to do your thicknesses and take different thickness dowels to make your different thickness slabs with rolling pin rolling on dowels to make the slab, the even thickness, because it's hard to roll a perfectly flat slab just with a rolling pin unless you have the dowels to guide it. So you can do a lot of stuff with that. What else? So let's say it starts with 500 for a kiln, then 100 for tools, right? Maybe you could say 200 for tools, so $700. After that, it's just materials, clay and glaze. And for a beginner, I don't suggest mixing your own glaze right at the beginning. But after you've been through a ton of clay, after you've used your first ton of clay and you've gone through the first 2,000 pounds of clay, and you've bought 40 boxes of clay, and you've gone through 40 boxes of clay, you've done so much ceramic work. Beginner still, of course, with 40 boxes of clay, and you decide, okay, I want to really do this because I like this. Not because you want to make money, but because you like doing it. Well, then mix your own glaze. Buy the mixing equipment you need, which is a good scale. They run about $30 nowadays for a good digital scale that goes to 12 pounds, 15 pounds. You go to 15 pounds, it'll measure within a gram. It'll make it perfect for measuring glazes. It needs to be sensitive to within a tenth of a gram. With a tenth of a gram or a gram, sensitivity is plenty. And if you're off by a gram in your 5-gallon bucket of glaze, it's not going to make any difference. Anyhow, uh, so mix your own glazes after you've done some work. And um, now, one thing I know about clay is understanding your clay body is something that's important. Now, I don't think many people would suggest this, but I do. Don't be dependent on your clay man to make your clay. And because if you do, you'll find yourself buying one type of clay for efficiency and financial reasons instead of having a variety of 12 different types of clay at your studio. Whereas if you buy just the raw materials for your clay and you just buy the dry materials, you can mix any kind of clay body you want and make a variety of clay bodies just from 5 or 6 different dry materials instead of just keeping one type of clay all the time that you use. And when you have those 5 or 6 different dry materials, you can vary your clay and make dark clays and white clays and stoneware clays and porcelain clays and terracotta clays and special clays for making a tagine or special clay for making a chimenea. You'll have all this because you'll have all the supplies to make all these different clays. Whereas if you didn't, if you bought a pre-mixed clay, you don't have the elements to make clay. You just have the clay itself that they mix for you. And they kind of control you with that. And they also charge you an arm and a leg for these materials unless you buy them in bulk. So you have to buy 1,000 pounds most of the time from the supplier before you get their maximum discount. And you want their maximum discount if you're an artist. I don't care if you're doing a hobby, you want their maximum discount on the materials. Because if I have a hobby, I don't want to waste a bunch of money on my hobby. So, I mean, if my hobby costs me 1,500 a month, a year retail buying 5 50-pound boxes at a time, and it costs me 800 a year if I don't buy it retail and buy my materials once a year. Well, I'm going to spend 800 to buy my materials and buy it once a year and not buy my materials all year long for 1,500. Just makes sense to me like that because it's just a waste. So glaze makes a difference in that, whether you buy pre-mixed glaze or not. But when you're just beginning, you need to experiment in the colors if you have the money to buy the materials for making your own glaze, then making your clay purchase for your first box of clay. First thing you need your kiln. You're going to need a kiln before you can even use a box of clay. I would not suggest getting into ceramics without having my own kiln first, because you can make anything you want to put in the kiln, but you can't fire anything off of a wheel without a kiln. So think about it. Come up with the $500 first for a kiln. Don't spend over $500 on your first kiln. And if you buy an electric one for $500, buy a used one that works. Don't buy one that doesn't work for $500. If the kiln doesn't work and it's electric, don't give them over $100 for the kiln. It's just not worth more than $100. I don't care if so and so said it worked 5 years ago. I don't care about the brick condition. I don't care about any of it. Those kilns are a dime a dozen people having a broken down electric kiln. Electric kilns fail all the time. All the time. They love to sell you an electric kiln, a shitty little artist electric kiln. If you're gonna buy an electric kiln for real, you need to be buying a industrial grade electric kiln. All you replace is you're gonna be replacing is the elements, not all the controls and shit like that that fail over and over. Like in this photograph here, that's an industrial kiln. It's built by Olympic. I do suggest Olympic if you're going to have a custom kiln made. Go through Olympic kilns. Invest in the market for custom made art kilns and industry kilns, industrial kilns. Very, very nice industrial kiln. But a simple Paragon or some sort of, especially not Paragon. I had a bunch of terrible experiences with Paragon kilns. But those 3-inch wall kilns where the walls are 3 inches thick, none of those are any good for mid-fire temperature. Those are O5 temperature kilns. That's what they're designed for. They say they go to cone 10. They're not. They're wear everything out when you go to cone 10. You get 20 firings out of it when you go to cone 10, and you'll get 200 firings out of it if you just go to cone 05 in that thing. Because the hotter you get, the more it wears out all those electrical components that are not really designed for high temperature. So, starting a pottery studio, get your kiln made, $500. Because when you buy that barrel and you make the buttons and the nichrome wire and the fiber blanket, you still have to buy about $120 worth of bricks for a base for it. You still got to buy a $120 gas burner to put in that brick base, and then you got to have shelving for the kiln. That's going to be another $120, or find shelving on somewhere that's used, because used shelving works just as good as new shelving. Don't ever turn down some used shelving so somebody wants to sell their shelving or you got some shelving to give you pieces of shelves. If you're a beginner, you can use any of that refractory material they got. And when you think of a kiln, think of kiln brick. Just have as much kiln brick as you can have. Kiln brick laying around is always nice to have if you're building your own kilns. So, and if you build a megalith kiln, you're going to have to build it yourself anyway. Nobody's going to ship it to you. It's like building a house. They don't just ship a house to you. So if you want to build a mega kiln, you got to build it yourself. You want to be able to, if you wanted to have 4 chambers, be able to walk into each chamber and have it all wood fired, you're going to have to build it yourself. You know? So learn about firing, because the more you learn about firing, the more you learn about the finished product, the fire. Um, glaze is a large part of it is the firing process, making the glaze. And it's a lot of people leave out the firing. All they do is the creation of the work. And they're left at the whim of Amico and Laguna Clay Company and Standard Clay making their colors for them and their effects, and the visual appeal of their piece is decided by this company. Well, instead, make your own glaze. I suggest make your own fire. Skip Olympic and make your own fire, and skip uh, and you go with gas. Yeah, don't go not necessarily go with wood. Don't go with wood fire right away if you think that's a wonderful idea because you got a bunch of wood. It's a lot more work to wood fire. It's just as much work as making all that pottery in the kiln as it is firing that kiln. It's a lot of work to fire pottery in the kiln because each pot you're gonna have to put quite a few logs in the kiln for each pot. So that's that. Y'all have a good night.